This is RPD Officer Leon Kennedy, and you're listening to the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Let's Talk Resident Evil podcast. I'm here with John.
Yo, what's up, everyone?
And, of course, you guys have been waiting about a few weeks now, 2 weeks, of the Resident Evil 9 Requiem podcast. And that's what it is. We are talking everything so far. Now, as of this recording, we are waiting for the Capcom Spotlight next week, and we're going to do a follow-up episode after that to kind of go over some new details. We know there's not going to be much new details in those spotlights, but at least enough to talk about it. But right now we're going to
Unless they drop a banger on us. They
could drop a whole, demo gameplay. We don't even know. That's not like a demo to download, but maybe they'll show us glimpses of the gameplay that they played at Summer Game Fest. But that's what happened. So basically, if you guys don't know, I was away in the UK. John, very thankful for John and Dustin for helping me out while I was away to John streamed the Summer Game Fest event, and Dustin helped edit the video for myself and Nuji for the Resident Evil Challenger channel. And
it was such a fun stream, too. We had a big turnout.
Yeah, I only stepped in for a little bit because, again, I didn't want to be spoiled on my reaction.
You're lucky you stepped in when you did, because it was as soon as you left, it dropped.
Yes.
But we either passed or were around like 200 people the whole stream.
That's amazing.
So we had a lot of people.
The hype was real for Resident Evil 9.
A lot of people showing me some love for not realizing I was back.
Yeah.
Part-time or whatever, but...
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing, too. A lot of people are still kind of coming around to, what's going on and how we're going to handle this
because Resident Evil news has been a little kind of mute. So
long time.
Yeah, so other than, I would imagine regular traffic, some people are tuning in for the first time in a couple of months with the podcast and stuff because there's actually, news.
Yeah.
Other than the movie.
Yeah, and so this is a big time for us now, for growth and for, gaining new followers and stuff. Of course, that's very important. So I appreciate you guys dealing with me while I was away, not being here because, of course,
your water.
Everybody is, covering this thing left and right. So me and John wanted to sit here and just kind of talk about the trailer, the stuff we picked up on, having this kind of back and forth discussion that you guys listening and watching always enjoy about what we do.
And
here.
The saying, better late than never, is not true. It's better late and perfect than early and fucking wrong. Which
John has a lot to say about that, too.
There's been a lot of people
saying
some crazy shit that turned out not to be true.
Yep. And so I think it's safe to say that pretty much 99% of what we've been hearing with the leaks and rumors up until this point of the announcement for Resident Evil 9 was completely false. Yeah. The enemies worshiping
we had
the moon.
Even people reporting on that it was confirmed that first person was the only perspective.
Wendigos.
Big channels too. A lot of channels jumped on that early news that it was only going to be in first person, which turned out to be a translation error. From auto subtitles or an interpreter or whatever.
And especially, we heard of the play tests and we heard of all the stuff. I think it was last fall or something like that when we heard about all these things that were like, no, this is exactly what it is. It's going to be Leon and Jill. It's going to be Barry as a side character, Rebecca, all these different things. And now nobody predicted what we're about to get into. Nobody.
No.
And so I will give Capcom this, and me and Luke were saying this over in the UK. They did a really good job at keeping this close to the chest.
Yeah,
they really did a good job.
There was a couple of leaks late last year that mentioned a female protagonist in a hospital, but those leaks specifically talked about Jill Valentine.
And the playtest was in a hospital. That's what we heard.
The playtest was in a hospital.
Yeah, we heard one section was a playtest for Jill, one section was a playtest for Leon. Now the thing is that I'm not denying that there won't be any other RC heroes in this game, but as of now...
It's also a possibility they used RE3 Remake Jill as a stand-in for Grace.
They could have.
During the playtest as well.
Just to test it out.
So, there are people who could have playtested it who did see Jill or not, but the reality is it's Grace Ashcroft. It's not Jill Valentine.
It's Grace Ashcroft. So,
and we have no confirmation that any other Raccoon City character will be in this game.
As of now. Now, there's still strong, rumors. Again, the speculation that Leon's going to be in this. It could be Jill, right? So, because people
could
are
be Chris.
thinking,
People are saying Chris because they can hear Jeff Shine's voice in the trailer.
Yes.
Which we're going to get into.
We're going to get into. And so, a lot of ping-ponging back and forth that me and John have already been doing just before we started, of just kind of running through what we think.
Even while you were in the UK, we were sending text messages back and forth.
Just kind of like picking each other's brains. You and Dustin were talking about stuff. And
you were talking with Nuji about it. I was talking with Dustin about it.
Yeah, so we had our kind of outlets of like really dissecting it. And so now we're just kind of, get into it. Now, Requiem in general, this subtitle for Requiem. Yeah, we got our...
Resident Evil 2.
The classic shirts. I always love the S.T.A.R.S shirt, so I always wear it. Actually, this is at Hot Topic, believe it or not, of all places.
I believe it.
Yeah, where there's combat boots and daddy issues and everything else, but you can also get...
And in the back.
You
got the big summer blowout.
So
different kind of blowout, Mom.
Yeah, that's a little bit different there. But, so... Resident Evil 9 Requiem is the subtitle we got.
What the fuck?
So
I just looked down at whatever the fuck that thing is. I was like, what is that?
What are you looking at?
The little white dildo looking thing.
Whoa, you can't sell it off camera.
And then, this thing. What the fuck is that? Is that a PlayStation? No, right there to the left of your leg.
This?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a gimbal.
Oh Jesus! It was just sticking out like the bottom part. I was like, "What the?"
So you could turn. It has the phone on it, and it's like a panning shot.
That's how. Yeah,
and then you could use it as a tripod. So.
In the outskirts of Raccoon City, one reporter, Alyssa Ashcroft, was murdered 8 years prior for panty shots with a gimbal. I wonder if she got choked out by the plastic bag. Anyway,
maybe, yeah. Who knows if Leon's a murderer? But
I'm sorry, chat. I looked down and I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah, like,
I knew it wasn't a dildo. I was just being funny, but it looked like I don't even know, like a PlayStation Move accessory.
Oh yeah, well, and I have the zappers over there too.
Yeah, I saw them.
But yeah, so Resident Evil 9 Requiem is what we're looking at now. That's the subtitle.
AKA Rec.
So
REQ.
You have it written down, right? What Requiem means.
Requiem means a mass or a return or rest for the dead. So the name is an interesting choice, Resident Evil Requiem. It's interesting that they're going with Raccoon City as the backdrop, because it is the return to Raccoon City.
It is.
And they're kind of hinting that like we're gonna uncover more mysteries about Raccoon City that we didn't already know. So I'm wondering if maybe this is going to kind of put a bottle cap on that storyline. Like
it might.
This is the justice. She is an FBI agent. So is this the justice of catching the final people that were responsible for the actual Raccoon City incident?
And will these characters, pay for their, their survival or pay for what they've done, what they've survived through? Because the one thing that you're thinking of is like, okay, so we're going back here, and obviously Alyssa Ashcroft was the big, we being, RE fans, we kind of marked out a little bit with that, 'cause we're like, oh shit, this is a character that is at least related to Outbreak of all games. So something
that could also be what Requiem is resting to, the soul of her mother.
Right.
Because she was murdered 8 years prior, and she's going back to the same place, which is the Renwood Hotel.
Now, here's the thing. So you mentioned earlier that I think is a great thing to bring up about Outbreak. So a lot of people don't know nowadays these YouTubers coming into the game. They see some, but a lot of them come into Resident Evil. They see it as an in. They're like, all right, cool. I can get views. I can
a lot
make
of
money.
people started with RE7.
I can monetize, and that's fine. Not knocking it. You
have to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. And some of them don't know the interesting lore and the, if they go and check out Outbreak now because of this, great. That makes people go back and. But you mentioned Outbreak has been referenced many times before in these remake games, to the point where obviously it's still canon. We still recognize that this Raccoon City event of things getting destroyed and this chapter in RE is significant. Now, what are some of the references that you remember from Outbreak, also with Alyssa as well, in recent games, just to let people know kind of some context?
Some of it is like Resident Evil 2 Remake. The most notable Outbreak canons that I can think of off the top of my head are Rita Phillips, the blonde officer in the RPD, works in one of the scenarios to help them escape from the RPD with the truck. She has a name tag in Leon's section of the office. Marvin getting bit by Brad. Well, it's not Brad in Outbreak, but he is bitten in Outbreak and is wounded. That was kind of a subtle callback to Outbreak. And then obviously we have Alyssa Ashcroft herself mentioned twice in Resident Evil 7. Once at the very beginning in the van, there's a sewer gator thing that has her name on it, I believe. And then there's also a file where she reports on missing people.
Which is interesting, right? Because
which is interesting because that's kind of what is going on. Is that she was allegedly like looking around for missing people, and then this is when she ended up at the Renwood Hotel and got murdered. And apparently Grace is going to see all of it. So I think we're going to be dealing with trauma, very Silent Hill 2, like a trauma.
The psychological horror.
Not Silent Hill 2 literally, but right. I mean, like people always laugh like Silent Hill's more than trauma because it is.
It is.
Only really 2 is about trauma for the most part, but and 4 is about trauma in a different way.
I just finished that, actually.
Yeah,
really good game. Really good game.
But it is looking like it's going to be dealing with trauma of loss
psychological
of her
horror mixed with survival. That's what they're kind of...
So more psychological...
Press release, right?
Yeah, so it's probably less psychological horror like Silent Hill, where like you're questioning what you're seeing is really real.
Because when you say that, people think Silent Hill. Why is it like Silent Hill? And it's like, it's not trying to be...
It's not trying to be Silent Hill. It's not trying to be PT.
I know some stuff in the trailer might look like that.
Yeah.
Or it might give you, you know, kind of like that nostalgic feeling of like, this kind of reminds me of some RE and Silent Hill imagery.
Yeah.
But I don't think they would make that jump to make this like you're playing this and it makes you feel like you're playing Silent Hill 2 remake. I don't think it's going to get that intense in the psychological.
Not at all.
Because obviously, even with 7, keep in mind it's the same director.
It's always going to be balanced in science.
Yeah, exactly. And they
same thing with 7 and Village.
And they had Evelyn, right? And then you had
Evelyn is science.
Yes.
It's hallucinations.
Absolutely.
Whereas this one, where they're going more psychological with the trauma, that angle of maybe you're going to, I mean, this is just speculation, but maybe you're going to be so scared. Maybe it'll be like Revelations 2 where you have a fear meter. You don't actually have a fear meter in Rev 2, but that's what the characters go through story-wise.
That trauma. Yeah.
If they, help me. I just drew a blank. What's it called? The T Phobos?
Oh, yeah.
Virus or something like that? Yeah, where if they get too scared, the virus literally kills them. That's a really interesting concept that Resident Evil never used again.
No.
That's kind of a psychological horror as well, because it's like, I can't be scared or I'm going to die.
You have to stay calm in that.
So I wonder if it's going to be something like that, or if it's going to be very much, which is what we heard in the playtest through IGN. You could hear her gasping, breathing.
She's scared.
Taking a deep breath. Yeah. Maybe the psychological elements are going to be more just for Grace herself.
And she's dealing with, like, you know, because I was curious when, you know, he's talking to her over the office, calls her into the office. You know, you can see she's a bookworm, right? She has all these files in. But when he says that it was in the Renwood Hotel and she has these flashes of her mom, it's almost like she's seeing those images right
PTSD.
there. She's reacting, right? Like some kind of PTSD.
She even steps back.
It's almost like it's bringing her in, almost like Silent Hill, where it's almost like something happens and it lures you in, right?
Yeah.
So this body was found. Now you're coming into this place. And whoever this murderer is, and we're going to get into that too, is potentially leaving these breadcrumbs to get her out because she is the chosen one, which is what we heard. And we're also going to get into that.
Which the person with the hood most likely is the person sitting in the chair, the old person.
That's what we think.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been saying.
They're wearing like the same type of like midnight suit. The people, I mean, I will admit that I was wrong if this is true. It would be very stupid, but it's not Leon. There are some people who are saying the hooded figure that's choking people out with bags is Leon.
That's just a troll. It has to be a troll comment.
They would never they would never reveal a main character that way. It just would never happen.
No. And that's why I was like, you know, because a lot of people online are saying, no, this is a serious take that people are having. And I'm like, that has to be a fucking troll.
Yeah, like RE7 Chris, helmet, pulls the helmet off and says, I'm Redfield. I could see something like that. But I don't see fucking
Leon choking people out with bags.
Choking somebody out with a bag and then just pulling his hood down and be like, my name's Leon. And I'm here to save you. It's just not going to happen. And it's clearly he's clearly strangling somebody in first-person perspective that you're supposed to care about, or maybe it's a cutscene,
but it's not FBI
the
agent.
It's not the character you're playing, so you're witnessing this event. I don't think Leon is trying to rescue Grace by strangulating somebody with a plastic
bag. It just
bag.
Doesn't make sense.
He has everything he could ever possibly want to kill people with. He's basically John Wick.
Yeah. RE4 Remake has proved that.
He does not need a plastic bag.
Yeah, no.
He would be flipping and dipping and stabbing and whoop-assing before he'd be strangling people with a plastic bag.
Yeah, not and again...
Although this is the same Leon who in Vendetta threw grenades on living people's cars as they were driving on the highway, so maybe he's a little unhinged at this point.
Yeah, maybe he gets a little crazy, overzealous with his actions, but no.
I just don't see it being Leon.
I don't see it. I also think that there's a lot of people that need to, you can look at the history of villains, right? And who could these people be?
Yeah, let's talk about that next.
Yeah.
Who do you think the strange hooded figure we'll get into the Chosen One in a minute, but who do you think it could be?
Spencer is an obvious one. Now
Same haircut.
Yeah, right.
He did die.
In
so 5.
A lot of people are going to say, well, what if, it could be a clone.
5 remake didn't happen. So, will he be dead in 5 remake?
Well, that's the whole thing, right? And I'm going to get into that probably at
the
very end.
We will talk about this, towards the end. The whole Capcom
little
not choosing.
Yeah.
Is it remake canon or is it original canon? They keep saying they're both canon, which is impossible. What is it?
I don't know. I think it's either it could be Spencer, but it could just be somebody else entirely that we have never seen before.
Could be Brandon Bailey.
Brandon Bailey's
a great guess. He comes up in files in RE5. He's one of the original founding group members of Umbrella, who was responsible for a lot of the research in Africa.
Right.
Spencer wanting to take a lot of credit kind of scrubbed a lot of names out of Umbrella's original history. A lot of people...
James Marcus was,
Marcus, Ashford, and Spencer are the big 3. Yes, they were the ones who... Oh, my God. Took the trip to Mother Miranda.
Oh, God.
In Village. We have
to talk about this. But we have to.
Yeah, okay, Village fans. I'll cut you a break. We'll talk normal.
Yeah.
But yes, so they're the ones that are supposedly the ones that took that trip. They're not the only founding people of Umbrella. 3 people didn't create the pharmaceutical giant. It was a big, long list of earls
that dwindled down
as they killed them and
to
cut
steal
them
their
off.
Research. Yeah.
Yeah, there's daughters that killed their grandfathers or fathers.
A big brawl.
There's a ton. We're not going to get into that today.
No.
There's a ton of names.
A lot.
Let us know in the comments if you want lore videos on the channel, because we could do that.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of people who are involved with Umbrella's foundation, and mostly European. I think one of the reasons why Umbrella, and I don't know, I have to double check.
Okay.
But I think one of the reasons why they got, not to cut you off, but I just wanted to say this real quick. Umbrella got a big foothold in the United States is because they were selling weapons to the military. And some people like your Wilsons and your Irvings and your Simmons, those kind of people, they're the ones that were getting them into the back door of being able to get this foothold. And Raccoon City just happened to be where they were the biggest presence. Why? Well, we don't know. Maybe it's because they were near the Great Lakes. That comes up in Vendetta, right? The Great Lakes were Arias was bottling water and all of that. And that's how the A virus got distributed. That's in the future, but maybe that's what they planned on doing if there was ever a problem. Umbrella was secretly going to be able to control people if things ever got that far. Who knows? But that's probably why they have such a strong foothold, because Umbrella is largely European in nature. What were you going to say?
Well, I think...
you said that's why.
Well, I was thinking that's why this villain, or this, connection to whoever this is, I feel like has to be connected to this Umbrella history.
It has to be.
It has to be.
It almost has to be.
You're back in Raccoon City.
Yeah.
We're assuming the Renwood Hotel is in Raccoon City. It might not be. It might be in wherever, like this, for example, in the beginning of the trailer, you see the FBI headquarters
building, and it's
building.
called the Midwest Field Office.
Midwest. So this is
they
Midwestern
still
town.
won't tell you where Raccoon City is.
They will not tell you.
But it is the closest. We assume it's the closest FBI office that would be near the fictional place of Raccoon City.
Yes, and so I think that if they're going to do something like that, depending on where this hotel is, John mentioned a good theory is that it could be in the outskirts of the city. You know, we've never been to the Renwood Hotel in these past Resident Evil games, not even an Outbreak.
Yeah, and that's kind of like why this podcast is a little difficult to like mold, because there's so much that's going to come up as you talk. You were telling me earlier, which you should tell them, your thoughts on the retcon of the bomb size.
Yes.
Because originally, even in Outbreak, I think there's a cutscene where it shows the crater, and there's no city at all. The whole thing's a giant crater.
Yeah.
But now it seems like, well, on the outskirts, like maybe where Leon got gas and stuff like that,
maybe
like
some
the
of the
outskirts
forest
of the city, there's apparently still buildings standing there.
And
how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the RPD standing? Because the RPD's near the center of the city, not
where it would basically
very
get
center,
destroyed.
but it would be within the circumference of what that missile would have hit.
Oh, my precious RE3 original. You always get neglected, even now. And it's just, because the ending of the RE3 original, Nemesis, 1999, to avoid confusion, is it basically gets wiped off the map.
Yep.
Same thing with Outbreak 1 and 2, keeping in that RE3 formula, because at that point, RE3 was only 5 years old. 6 years
RE4
old.
also doubles down.
RE4
in the
doubles
opening
down in the
cutscene,
opening.
it shows the missile of RE3.
Right. So now that they're changing it up to put us in this, decrepit Raccoon City that's still standing, I'm happy that we're at least going back. We're getting the chance to go back. Do I have to suspend big disbelief that we're actually going to be able to roam around there depending on the damage that it took? Yeah, you got to really suspend the disbelief. And I guess whether or not it's worth it to go back will really be told in the storytelling, the characters, and how this thing
For sure.
wraps it up. If this thing blows 7 and 8 out of the water story and character-wise,
It has a strong chance.
It has a strong chance. I will forgive it for those little, like, suspending your disbelief, or as we say in the movies, the movie magic, right? Same thing with the game magic. You kind of have to suspend
Game's got a game.
Game's got a game, as we always say here, right? So it's like, you really got to suspend that disbelief. I wish that, they at least, because I know with 3 Remake, it wasn't as big of a missile attack.
Yeah.
It was, it was obviously a lot smaller in the scale of things.
It was a thermobaric bomb. It wasn't nuclear.
Right.
So it was heat. As the heat bomb goes off, I'm not a weapons expert, so I don't know this, and we probably could do some more research on this, but as the heat expands from the center point of the missile, I'd imagine the fire is less effective in destroying things. So, does it make sense that a test thermobaric, by the way, it wasn't complete, it was a test missile. They were testing a test weapon. Would buildings still be standing afterwards? Probably. It wouldn't knock everything down.
I mean, I'm
the
not
center
mad.
and nucleus for sure.
Yeah, I'm not mad that like
It's
something
very akin to like a Fallout game, right? Like Fallout's been nuked all over, and there's like it has that reminiscent look.
But wouldn't there be like radiation? There would still be like
Well,
can't
the flame,
just walk in.
The flame, because it was a thermobaric bomb. I don't think there's radiation.
Okay,
it's a heat missile.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, there could be, but it would probably be like lesser amounts that wouldn't cause.
I mean,
anything.
it's been if it happened in '98, obviously when
Yeah.
it got destroyed, and if it takes place, let's just say the game takes place in 2026.
It's
or
20.
2025.
It would be depending on when those shots were shown.
Yeah,
It would be 17 plus 8. 2018 plus 8. 2026.
yeah.
It would be 2026 because
her mother
got killed at the earliest, unless she literally wrote that paper in RE7 and then got murdered. At the earliest, probably 2018 is when she got killed.
So that's when Alyssa has died in the timeline. Now,
My bigger question
sure, go ahead.
is two things. Number one, why is there no growth? Like the Arclay Mountains are literally surrounding Raccoon City.
Surrounding.
On one side at least. Like you would think somewhere that was abandoned that long would have a ton of plant growth on it.
That is very true.
You know what I mean?
It's almost like a Last of Us thing where it's like, you start to see the universe kind of nature reclaiming. So when it's been 20-something years since the outbreak, you literally see the foliage growing around and the animals.
Exactly.
And like that would be cool if we get a section where we're in the outskirts and it's literally filled with just like this over vegetation, or if it even can grow at that point, right? But like just like you said, like that would be it looks
very barren.
Very barren. Yeah.
Even over 20 years after.
And it still just looks like
it's barren. I feel like is a little bit of an oversight.
Yeah.
Or
we might have to suspend
there's a really real reason that nothing grows there.
And what's your theory on that?
I don't know. Maybe the virus is in the soil.
Now here's the biggest.
Maybe Capcom just didn't want to make all the foliage. Like I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. We're not going to have the answers to everything. But it's just
the game's got. It could be an oversight. The thermobaric bomb wouldn't eliminate growth. I mean, even nuclear reactors and things that have been nuclear bombed still have growth today.
Yeah, it just gets to the point where they're starting to erase the original timeline with stuff that happens in the remakes. For better or for worse, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And
for right now, the track record mostly is negative. RE4 remake is a huge positive. Some people would still say that's a negative. I respect that opinion. I don't agree with it. But 2 and 3 remake are acting-wise, visually, and somewhat storytelling-wise superior than the originals. But still fall short of an overall world-building experience, in my opinion, than the originals.
I would agree.
So...
And again, we're not... It's just like, we understand that, these things are still moving, like the original timeline and the remake timeline are like this, but then when you start to kind of like... Different accounts, right? And so we saw the destruction of RE3 Remake. We saw the build-up to RE4 Remake leading right into what is going to be an eventual RE5 remake. Are they going to change Wesker's fate? There's a lot of questions up in the air now that they're starting to do these changes.
Yeah, speaking of Wesker.
Yeah.
Wesker could be the guy in the chair.
Some people are saying that.
Now, it would be really strange because he has black hair, but he isn't kind of wearing what looks to like a midnight suit. He also doesn't have sunglasses, which people would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But he did burn in a volcano.
And you hear his voice, so some people could say, if that is his voice, it doesn't sound like Wesker when he's like,
It sounds similar. Okay, it doesn't sound similar, but it sounds more like RE4 Remake Wesker than it sounds like any other Wesker we've ever heard.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Wesker.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's Wesker either. I just bring that up because some people are saying it could be Wesker.
Yeah, we've seen it, believe us.
Maybe he dyes his hair and he just slicks it back and he's like, Grace, the chosen one.
Yeah, that chosen one. Now, so let's get into why she is the chosen one.
There's a ton of theories. What's yours?
Well, I think it's something we talked about on the phone about what happens to Alyssa in Outbreak.
Yeah, that's possible.
Which is she takes the cure,
the
daylight, and that's
only if you make it. But in canon, they all take it.
In canon, they all take it. So for you guys who may not know, Outbreak 1 and 2, you basically get to choose your character, your teams. There's canon stuff for every single one, and you can actually play through the entire game and not have any Alyssa picks on your team. And so Outbreak 1 and 2 are like this, as far as, they take place around the same time, the Raccoon City outbreak, and you're seeing the perspective from these other teammates, some of them being, officers like Kevin, or somebody being a reporter like Alyssa, who knew Ben Bertolucci and stuff like that. And you also have other characters like Jim. You have everyday people, and then you have, Yoko. You have all these people that have different abilities. So for people that may not know, Outbreak 1 and 2 was set up in that way.
Okay.
Yes.
So the only one that she's I looked this up because I didn't want to be wrong. I feel I know what I did wrong.
Okay.
So the only one that she is considered to be canon is Hellfire, which is the Apple Inn scenario.
With the burning hotel.
And
this is Alyssa we're talking about. For
yes,
people
Alyssa
watching
Ashcroft.
Yes.
And Flashback, the one that has to do with the hospital in
Okay.
the jungle. So I was right. Decisions, and the other one apparently don't have canon. They all technically do.
Okay.
One of those two, I guess.
Yeah. So the
But it's
daylight
interesting
is taken.
because in 1993, she was the news reporter who wrote the article on that weird hospital in the forest. So she's been a journalist for a long time. And she's a journalist.
And so she was only, an outbreak, 26, maybe 27, something like that.
Something like that.
So, yeah, you figure, she was at that point already, working for a little while. And
she was born in 1970.
So she was 28? Yeah. Yeah, 28.
Yeah,
so
28.
So basically on the cusp of being 30, and she's already, doing these reports, covering this stuff. Now, she does take the, this cure, right?
The canon, how you know which characters are canon is in certain scenarios, there are personal items that you can find only if you're playing a specific character. So those personal items are meant to be found when you play certain characters.
So you could do a canon run, basically.
Where you select all the canon
and
people.
And it tells you, which is great.
For example, the subway, you're supposed to play as Jim. Jim is one of the canon choices in the subway. What do you know about Jim, Anthony?
I know that he made my life shit when I played as him in the Legacy series.
You don't like the big fleas, Anthony?
Yeah. Though honestly, I think the worst thing, just sidebar real quick, not too far of a sidebar.
Yeah.
The worst thing about Outbreak is the infection meter.
Yes.
I think it's a cool concept, but holy shit, that will piss you off and can spoil your runs in...
Do you know why it exists? Because it wasn't planned originally.
I don't know why, or if I was told, I forget.
So it only exists so that people can't join your game and then just never do anything. It's an Autobot killer. Like it kills people who go AFK.
Okay.
So like if somebody gets yelled at, loses power or whatever,
they're just going to turn.
You won't be able to move forward, but they're going to die.
Yeah.
Because if they get hit, they'll die. If they get hit, they'll die. And then if they get at 100%, they come back as a zombie. And you can control the zombie.
You can. Which
so
is pretty cool.
I guess you're just supposed to turn and then eat people.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. But and for anyone that doesn't know, Outbreak was solely for online, and nowadays you can play online on these modded servers, which is the better way to play. If you play single player, you'll still enjoy it. It's not quite as fun.
It's not anywhere near as fun.
I have an appreciation for Outbreak a lot more than I did back during the Legacy series when I didn't play it online. It shot right up in my ranking system for sure.
Especially for us watching them play it. Yeah. Caveat, if you play it by yourself, play it on very easy. Anything else is torture.
It's torture.
Because the AI is they literally will do what you don't want them to do.
Yes.
They'll pick up all the ammo, run away, and die.
This is why we need an Outbreak remake now. If you're doing all this shit, connecting Grace to Alyssa and all this shit, please just give us
I think Outbreak would be a perfect inclusion as the bonus game.
The multiplayer of
the multiplayer game.
Capcom, please.
$30
if you're watching this, please.
$30, 4 maps, another $30, the other 4 maps. Give it to us. Or just do fucking $30 and give us all 4 maps or all 8 maps.
I just think that
I want to shoot zombie lions, damn it.
And I want to be in Raccoon City with my friends in a co-op game.
I want to make Anthony Jim again.
Yes. We got to play as Jim.
His canon ending is that he goes and buys shoes. And I hope they don't change his character at all.
I don't think they will, but we'll see if they even include all those characters. Regardless, I think Alyssa should be in there.
For sure. They already have her model.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, we did see Alyssa in the RE engine. So bringing it back to what we were saying here with the enemies the villain and stuff like that. We're not sure. I mean, this person that's murdering people, I'm assuming, is the person that murdered Alyssa. Now, do you think that this creature that's crawling around, this stalker-type enemy, is in fact Grace's mom, Alyssa Ashcroft? That's the biggest theory right now.
So I think I kind of had that feeling as soon as I saw the trailer because the monster looks very feminine.
It does. It does have the claws. It's got the long limbs. It's got
kind of blondish hair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got like a blouse-looking thing, like a dress, but it also shackles. I was thinking that when she was murdered, potentially, maybe she was just captured and experimented on, and that's why you see a shot in the trailer where there's a bunch of people looking over her.
That's a good point.
Maybe she was being operated on.
Because then when we cut to Grace, it's like she's strapped down to a gurney.
So it could be that too. Yeah, it could be that too. It could be that they're looking at her, or they did something to her when she was little, and now they're seeing how it gestated. They're bringing her back.
Do you think the cure that she took in Outbreak is going to play into effect as to why she is in fact the chosen one, or do you think that could just be something they forget about?
So two things. One, I think Alyssa being the monster would be the best writing tool.
I think that could work.
I think anything else would be a kind of a disappointment.
Do you think it'd be too predictable?
No, I think it's so predictable that it works the best.
That's fair.
Because it's trauma. It's Grace's trauma, right? Like, you want Grace to... What is the most horrific thing she could possibly think of about her mother's murder? She wasn't just murdered. She was turned into a monster.
She was experimented on.
She was turned into, which is why I think it's Spencer or Brandon Bailey, or somebody else that was involved with Umbrella. She was turned into the thing that she worked so hard to fight as a reporter, as Umbrella was kind of unraveling towards the events of Raccoon City and afterwards. She was always seeking truth, seeking, like, you know, finding these missing people. She seems to always be going to where missing people are getting taken and experimented on. So, because, like, the people she was looking for in 7 are all the mold victims.
That's true.
She's got she's got a nose for trouble.
That's
you
true.
know, like,
yeah, and it got her into some thing she couldn't get out of, you know.
So is she pregnant during Outbreak? We don't know. Is it David's kid? We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah.
Is it Leon's kid? Is Alyssa the girlfriend he broke up with while he was drunk before his first day at work?
Was she the reason that he was hungover?
I
don't know.
It could be the Daylight could be the chosen one. So our theory, what I told you on the phone was, I kind of feel like maybe she's the chosen one because the Daylight antibodies, the T-virus, because they're canonically all infected. And then the Daylight cures the T-virus, which then would give her antibodies such as a Jill, such as a Sherry. We know Sherry's got...
Yes, we've seen these characters that have had
this advantage, right?
That, yeah.
It's possible that the Daylight cure is turning her body into what I would say, if this is a Spencer, if this is a Brandon Bailey, God forbid if this is a Marcus Leach, who knows what it could be, right?
Yeah.
But whoever it is, I think that they're looking for her because my prediction is that her blood is going to hold the key to immortality. What they were looking for all along.
Yeah.
Why would it not be an Alyssa? Well, because Alyssa was the first generation. And when you're a child, you develop faster. So it's possible that the Daylight, she got pregnant, the child got the antibodies. Or the child, she could have been like 2 weeks pregnant and didn't know.
And people, you know, and I know we're going to have to make this parallel, but look at Rose,
yeah.
right? Child of this, you know,
of mold,
of mold, this perfect vessel, right?
Yeah, perfect vessel.
And we find out at the end.
There's a lot of parallels.
That you know, Ethan was molded all along, which again was a story change that they made to morph this, you know, Rose story. So yeah, you're right. There is something about that second generation of that being. Now this is the perfect specimen, the perfect thing. Now, could they, you know, create and generate this virus or something else from her blood? Is that why? Is there something else that they can form from experimenting on Grace specifically?
Possibly.
And how does she even get, you know, we're assuming that she goes and investigates, gets knocked out, and the demo that people were playing was when she wakes up from the gurney.
That would make the most sense.
And so maybe the man in the hood straps her up to the bed. Maybe, you know, it's there's multiple people involved. That's the thing. We don't know all the villainish details or even honestly, like, we see a shot of an officer that kind of looks like a zombie but kind of doesn't. Like, do you think we're going to be even fighting traditional zombies in this game? What do you think? I mean, I feel like it's appropriate for Raccoon City to have some kind of fucking zombies hanging around. You have the underground of the RPD still could be explored. There's so many areas that zombies can pop up because of something else happening.
Yeah, the thermobaric bomb really... Again, I'm not a missile expert. Nuclear, thermobaric, how far do they really penetrate the Earth?
I don't know. We're not experts on this.
How many nests were there? We know of 2.
We know of 2, yeah.
Possibly 3 if Zero's was not the
They could
same.
easily have another one that isn't connected to the Spencer Mansion, but that could also be on the outskirts, right? Something underground. I mean, we know they had a whole thing stretched across all of Raccoon City underground, being the
somehow
hive.
There's a Resident Evil 0 has an elevator that goes from the research facility to the Resident Evil 2 marshalling yard.
Yes.
By going up and down.
Yeah.
Somehow.
There's just so much layers to Raccoon City.
Yeah. I think we will have zombies.
Okay.
I think it makes the most sense. And I think because we're playing as an inexperienced agent and not Leon and Chris and Jill.
A decked out agent.
A decked out, like, very seasoned agent. This is kind of like a desk worm, like a bookworm.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Leon and Chris and Jill and all of them just not being in this game.
Okay. Do you think it would just be forced if they added them in, or do you think it would just be like not really? You think it would take away from Grace's story to have them show up randomly for fan
number
service?
one, Chris is a BSAA agent, and unless he's invited on American soil, the BSAA is not allowed to operate on American soil uninvited. So why would he be there? Number 2, Leon is a DSO agent. I could see Leon pulling a Chris from RE7 and showing up at the end of the game to save her as a cameo, and then maybe getting a DLC where he goes down and into the lab or whatever and does a no hero, right? Not a hero. If anybody is going to show up in this game,
it's Leon.
It'll be Leon because he's DSO and this is American soil. Probably works pretty closely with the FBI, the Division of Security Operations and such like that. Like, that's probably your best bet.
Yeah.
A lot of people were saying they heard Jill's voice actress. A lot of people saying they hear Chris or Carlos. Bro, Marvin is talking in the trailer.
That is Marvin. It has to
It
be.
is Christopher Watson.
Yeah.
Right? Guys, don't fall for it. Jeff Shine was Chris Redfield and Carlos. Nikki Lee Tompkins was Jill Valentine and the fucking bitch in Village that fell into the fire because she wouldn't listen to Ethan. I can't believe I'm going to say it, but Ethan was telling her what to do, and she fucking...
She was also one of the Lady D daughters.
She was one of the Lady D daughters, right? I'm pretty sure that Helena girl was Nikki. The one that's like, my father.
Oh, no, that was her.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah. So,
them reusing voice actors, I'm not the biggest fan of, especially when it's Carlos to Chris.
I think it is incredibly lazy.
Yeah.
But...
Not knocking the actors, the talent.
We're not saying, Nick Apostolidis to Nick Apostolidis is lazy.
No.
We're saying, Jeff Shine, love him. He's a great guy. We got to talk to him.
Great guy.
He was Carlos through and through.
And he's just trying to get paid. I can't blame him. If
I
they're
can't
like, hey,
blame
you
him.
want to be Chris Redfield as well? He's like, absolutely.
He should have not been Chris Redfield.
I think they should have at least deviated.
Although
away.
I will give a controversial take. I actually like him as Chris Redfield. He should have only been Chris Redfield and not Carlos.
I think if he wasn't Carlos, people would have liked him more as Chris.
More, yeah. I actually think his voice, when he's acting in Village, is pretty good. I actually like that voice.
I wish we got more of it. I wish Chris wasn't as big of a side character in that game.
But we have so many issues with voice actors. We're not going to get into it anymore.
No, we're not.
It's just
we want the game to just
fucking
actually be playable.
Infinite Darkness. And let me just fact check this so I don't look like a massive idiot.
The Matthew Mercer is Leon in Death Island, and then in Infinite Darkness, it's Nick Apostolidis. It's like, what the hell's happening? So some of that stuff is interesting, right? I always wonder, like you said, we don't have to, harp on it too much. We obviously want the game to be, playable. We want a story that's, enjoyable. We want characters that we like and that connect to our existing characters. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're sitting here like,
there's one movie or something where Leon's literally talking to Leon. It's Mercer talking to Apostolidis.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I don't even know if it's a Resident Evil movie, but it might be a different movie or a different video game or something. But they'll do that, I'm sure. Like, I would not be surprised if at some point Stephanie talks to Allison Court in some type of video game.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, I think as far as, characters showing up or who can show up, I do think that, like, there might be another Raccoon Survivor in there that may show up, and hopefully if they do, it just is more than what Chris was in Village. If it is just the extent of what Chris was in Village, where we just play him for the last chapter, I don't really know how I'm going to feel about that, because then again, it feels like they're kind of just showing up for the fan service and not for an actual story element.
So Leon showing up at the last minute to save Grace,
I wouldn't hate it.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like Chris showing up for Ethan.
Yes, and that made sense because he was monitoring it, he was watching him. Obviously, he made some silly choices like not telling him.
And he was invited to investigate that by Umbrella.
Yes.
It wasn't he wasn't working as BSAA.
No.
He was working with the BSAA was working with Umbrella. That's why he was there.
Well, he had
for those of you who are going to say, "Oh, he was on U.S. soil." He was on U.S. soil because an American company, Blue Umbrella, basically brought him on board. They were working with him.
But the Hound Wolf squad was kind of like a rogue squad, wasn't it?
The Hound Wolf squad was, but if you hear most of their voices in the multiplayer game, a lot of them are overseas. They're not American. That's also him not following orders, but that was also in Romania, not American soil.
Yeah. So he kind of went
He's
and did
in
his
Africa.
own thing.
He's in China. He's in Romania.
Yeah. If you think about recent Chris, he's not been around the States at all.
Just Louisiana and New York City and Vendetta.
Yep. And then Alcatraz and Death Island.
The Alcatraz Island, yeah.
But even that was
Which
just
again
a stretch.
they found T-virus in the whales, and that's why Claire's organization contacted the BSAA.
Yes.
That's why Jill said, What do you want? What does your TerraSave or whatever it was want with the BSAA?
Yes.
Well, we found T-virus in blah, blah, blah. And then they invited the BSAA in because it was like, okay.
Now we got to investigate.
Yeah. And then Leon was already there because the DSO is going to send their dog. So it just, Death Island was fan servicey, but it made sense because it was Raccoon City Survivor versus Raccoon City Survivors.
That's what they wanted to set up.
It was a really cool concept that they executed a little poorly, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I think it could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. Do I think the Jill and Leon pairing up, in my heart, do I wish that was still a thing that could happen in this game? Yeah,
yes.
But never say never.
Could be Resident Evil 10.
Could be RE10 in another 6 years. We'll see.
What would you do if the hospital was the first 30 minutes of the game? And then it was a 70-hour open world Raccoon City experience.
That would be insane. I don't know how I'd feel about.
We would be like,
well, that's
24-hour stream.
That's another thing to bring up, right? Like the whole open world thing. What if there is more of an open exploration to Raccoon City in this game? How would you feel about that? Where it's not open world, but maybe you can it's like Village, where you can kind of go off and like check out different things. Or
so I think
remake, you can turn around and do side missions, go back, you can backtrack, do different things, like.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I would feel about that. I think that's suitable for Outbreak. I don't know if I'd necessarily want to walk around a basically abandoned.
Yeah, leave that for
also,
Outbreak.
like,
yeah,
are you going to put zombies in the ruins? Because then it's like, this is not taken care of at all.
Yeah, I
like, who's watching this?
Yeah, I'd prefer it to be like linear at that point. Like, just keep it linear. We're already in Old Raccoon City, which is a cool concept. Do you want them to have any kind of like references throughout? Or do you think that's going to be too on the nose? Like, let's just say you go there and you see stuff from RE2 or RE3 that were like
you're going to see the RPD.
Yeah, but you see certain aspects of that, like
Marvin's skeleton.
So yeah, I was going to say, people were joking about that, right? You see Marvin's skeleton, or you see like little remnants of things. Like, would you want that in there?
It's been like 20 years, so I doubt any of that would be there.
I'm sure there's going to be sections of the station that are completely blocked off because of destruction or things being literally.
I would be
turned to
shocked
dust.
if you're not allowed to go under the RPD. I feel like the RPD being shown is more than just shock factor. I think that's the destination. They're going to the RPD. They're going underground. They're going to Nest.
Now, what was destroyed though with the self-destruction?
Just the Nest.
Right.
But there was hallways and stuff we couldn't get to. So it's possible that it wasn't fully destroyed. It was just incinerated.
Yeah. Yeah, they can turn it either way. That's the thing, is that Capcom can rechange the kind of, they can do the lore change up, or like what actually happened, and now kind of fix it in that regard.
For example, you have to think the orphanage was an experimental field where they would come and take the orphaned kids. Is there a nest under the orphanage?
It could be.
Was there an entrance we didn't get to see?
They're experimenting enough. They easily could have brought people down to another.
Right? Because in the orphanage, there is a ladder down to the sewers. Did all of the sewers blow up too?
Yeah.
There's so many things.
So many outcomes that could happen.
They could do with Raccoon City Ruins if it's larger than just a small part of the game. If the hotel is such a big deal, number one, where is it?
We don't know. Still.
And then how the hell is she going to get to Raccoon City from there? Not to mention, because it was nuked off the map, nuked as in bombed.
Yeah.
Wouldn't there be like a ton of no trespassing? Like, they would rope it off.
That's what
she
I was
is
thinking,
FBI.
too. Yeah, they would, I guess, let her in, but you wouldn't be... In real life, you wouldn't be sent in by yourself. In a game, you might be sent in by yourself, or maybe have backup on standby.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, how has this been being monitored or watched throughout these years? Thinking in our heads, oh, it's completely gone, so they don't have to monitor it. But if you, like, imagine, like, how many, like, tourists or people are like, I gotta get a glimpse of, like, sneaking into Raccoon City. Or what if you see some people that try to sneak in and they end up getting, killed in that regard?
Would be like the people who wanted to see Terra Grigia while it was in the water.
Yeah.
During Revelations.
Yeah, no, exactly, right? So it's like, I think that would be an interesting thing to bring in.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's been there. Who the fuck's watching it? Who? I feel like there would be people that would want to just see a glimpse of the RPD or something that, they weren't even alive when it happened. So now they're getting all this, like, I mean, if I could just sneak in there, there has to be some kind of element of that. But like you said, where is this hotel? We don't know. And we've never heard of that hotel in any RE stuff in the past. But according to Capcom's website, the official RE9 website, Raccoon City is a lot bigger role than people think. And it seems like all the past things that have happened are not for nothing. So they are going to acknowledge the lore and the history of Raccoon City and Resident Evil 30 years down the road, which, again, kudos to Capcom for taking this risk. Mm-hmm. Now, getting into, of course, we're not lucky enough to be able to play this or go out to Summer Game Fest to play it. But after this
or to be shown it, whatever.
Or to be shown it, some people like IGN and other press actually played it physically, but, you got to be high up on the press boards for that. So after we saw this trailer and, we were kind of thinking about it, the gameplay came out. And the embargo was lifted about a week ago from this recording. And, this is what we have to talk about, because the major things we picked up in, two major things that we have confirmed. It's the choice of first and third person, which is a huge question. So let's get into that real quick.
Okay.
First and third person, we obviously,
been asking for this for a long time.
Been asking for this for a while, or for them to just figure out, if they are going to, in fact, lean into third person entirely, considering the Rose DLC was only third person, and Village DLC with the, third person was a little jank, wasn't entirely as fluent as the remakes. So now that we have the choice, the option, do you think it's better for them to do this? To give an option, or do you think they should have doubled down and just said, nope, it's third person, or nope, it's first person? How do you feel about this now that we've had a few weeks to think about this?
So my opinion is it's better for them to design the game with third person in mind, because your game series has exploded on third person. Traditional cutscenes, everything else, right? That being said, first person does have an element for some people of being more immersive. It is a perspective that does offer a new experience in a different way. It's definitely a different experience. I have been asking for the choice of both for a long time. So I'm going to stick with my guns and say that this is a huge win. If it is designed with both in mind to the point where it's not like Resident Evil Village's third person, where it feels wrong. It has to feel like RE4
It felt
Remake.
like an afterthought with Village DLC, Village Gold.
It just doesn't. It feels stiff, and it doesn't feel like the character really moves the way that they would.
Where when you played Rose, it actually felt like it was designed because it was only designed for third person. They
Even
made
Rose,
that work.
even Rose felt stiff.
It was off. Yeah.
It was off.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they have to roundhouse kick or parry or anything like that, but your movement should at minimum feel like RE2 Remake.
Yeah, and if
You have to feel like it has to feel like it's fluid and meant for it.
Yeah.
You could tell the way they did Village was they just went and then didn't really change anything. They didn't change animations, nothing.
No.
That has to be designed from the ground up this time.
I agree.
It can't just be
Yeah.
first person with tacked on third person.
Yeah,
it should be the opposite, if anything.
It should be the
But
opposite.
I don't think our first person fans deserve a tacked on first person mode either.
No. Very
It
true.
should be both.
It is the RE7 director after all.
Yeah.
So he is going to be, thinking of first person. Now, some people are saying, I don't know if this is true, they're saying that sometimes there's a recommended option, which I don't know if that's going to be for certain sections. I don't know if that's going to be in the menu, but we do know that it's not a hotkey. It's not a button that you click and it just snaps you in. You do, in fact, have to pause it, click to the menu, and a lot of people that were playing it were hoping, their feedback, a lot of people, not just a few people that we watched, were saying that they want that to be implemented, where it's a button that you can simultaneously switch.
I would dislike that.
I
hit that button all the time by accident, and it pisses me off.
That's my biggest thing. I'm like, well, what if you can hit it by accident, and what if, I like the fact that, at least like you said, the options there, I do look at this as a win. I've been putting out polls, like seeing what a lot of people are saying third person. Capcom actually put out a poll.
Yes.
It came out yesterday. Now it's going to end in like 5 days. I'm curious to see the final results.
Yeah.
Might be something to follow up on in the next show. But like 27,000 votes, I think, something like that, or something like that. And it's like the response was basically third person was winning. So basically, like,
it was 36,740 votes so far.
That's what it was. Thank you.
52% of them, which is about 19,100, give or take, 20, like 16 less than 100, 19,100, said third person. I think it was like 21% said both.
Yes.
So if you took half of that,
And then 27 was first.
so if you took 11 more of that, that's saying that there's a 60-40 split, third person preferred.
Yes. As
That's
of right
just
now,
the audience.
That's just the
right?
audience. Yes.
Now, I see that going more third person, because how are you going to play one of the best games ever made, RE4 Remake, and not want that again? This game will not be RE4 Remake, though.
No.
It's not going to
It's
be
going to be a
action
different
heavy.
pace. It seems
Different
to be
pace.
more survival horror.
I just don't see why you can't just have both.
And that's why I think this is the best solution because there was people, again, jumped on this so quickly before we had the official word. We texted about this personally. But a lot of people were like, it's first person. And then everyone was like, fuck. And
everybody, a
pissed.
lot of people were pissed
Off. And you even said, you're like, dude, if this is first person,
it's killing my excitement.
yeah, you were like, this is going to, and that's the thing, like, me and John don't dislike something like, let's say, RE7, right? But I just think that, like, over the shoulder, fixed camera angles is our favorite. I think I could speak for both of us when we say that, as far as RE perspectives. Fixed camera angles. I don't know if that's changed for you throughout the years.
No, fixed camera angles are
we know we're
my
not going to get
favorite, but we're never going to get them again.
So for now, I think for third person, over the shoulder, however you want to say it, is our preferred perspective to this day. For Resident Evil, for what it represents. But again,
Resident Evil 4 set the tone.
They set the tone. And if you're watching this and you're like, you know what, guys, I get what you're saying, but I'm going first. That's why having the choice is awesome, because no matter which perspective you prefer, which Resident Evil you came from, even if you're new to the series and you prefer FPS games, it gives you an option. And look, one might be more effective than the other for certain scares. Like they were saying in the gameplay, for stealth elements, it's actually better in third because you can see all of your surroundings. So when you're sneaking around, you can see, just like an RE4 remake. You want to sneak around, knife people with Leon, okay, I can see my surroundings. Third person works better. If you're getting chased by what we're going to talk about now, the stalker enemy, you might
Which we think might be Alyssa.
You might have more of that fearful element because you're peeking around corners and it might be there and it's like it's jumping at you, you know. So I think you'll have that balance. Some people might either, if there is a recommended setting, some people might play on that. Or like me and John were saying, we might do one for one playthrough, one for the other when we stream it. Like we're inevitably going to stream it.
24-hour stream.
A lot of people are going to be like, well, what are you going to do? And
yeah,
we might be able to do 2 playthroughs in that day with both perspectives to
honestly,
show you guys both.
If they have recommended camera angle for each section, if they did something where it would switch you automatically,
that would be cool
without having to go into the menu and change it, I would be okay with that, and I think that would revolutionize what horror is going to be in the future. Like, you have your first-person sections. This section's first person. This section's third person. I'm okay with that.
Right. Or if you just prefer one set, you can set it
You can
straight,
set it straight.
and it doesn't force you out. No, that'd be interesting. And again, I know some people would like it to be, you know, less janky, like a Village, and I think that's true. Like, you got to design. Now, according to what people are playing, they said that it seems like they put a lot of effort into both perspectives, but we won't know until we actually play the demo.
Yeah,
and we play the demo all the way through first, then we play the demo all the way through third, and we really start making these comparisons and seeing how they've made that jump from point A to point B, from experimenting with first person to third person. Now, let's get into the Stalker enemy. So, obviously, it could be Alyssa. It could be this other monster, anything. How do you feel about a Stalker enemy? Do you think it's played out? Because there was a lot of rumors with RE9 that there was going to be a Stalker enemy. Obviously, it was a guess, you know.
I mean, it was an easy guess.
It was an easy guess. That's what I'm saying. Is like
I have a prediction.
Like, I was right. It's like
I have a prediction. An AFC or NFC team will win the Super Bowl next year.
Exactly. That's the equivalent.
Thank you, leakers.
The leakers. Do you think this is too much of them, like, harping back on the Stalker enemy? Do you think it could be done right if it's the right enemy type? Like, how do you feel about it coming off of Lady D? Because that was the latest Stalker enemy type. We didn't have one in RE4, thankfully, because I thought that would have been kind of too much if they implemented like a new Stalker enemy in RE4 remake. Which
we just had the one section with Chief Mendez.
Yeah, which was like that was small.
I don't mind the Stalker enemies as long as they're going to be, like, impactful. Like, Mr. X isn't very impactful in the remake.
You don't think?
No.
Really? Because he was on your ass more than Nemi in the remake.
Well, he was, but you just run around him. And he's so much easier to get around than, like, he was in the original.
Because for some people, and we know why they dumbed down Nemesis after, but like, some people thought Mr. X was too much, too terrifying.
Well, a lot of people did, and you know, Resident Evil 7 almost at one point turns into nothing but Stalker enemies,
getting chased by either Marguerite
by Baker,
or Baker,
then Marguerite, then whoever, right? And then Village doesn't really have one. They have Lady D for the castle, but it's only that one section.
It's such a small section.
It's such a small section. And same thing with her. Like, she's easy to get around.
True.
I think that the way they make this Stalker enemy good is they make it like Alien Isolation, where this enemy, like we saw in the cutscene where it's coming down from the ceiling, I think this enemy needs to be able to enter all rooms at any random interval given time. There should be scripted events too, where you always get like the helicopter he lifts, or Nemesis like that. But it can't all be scripted, or it's gonna just be another miss.
And you don't want it to be too much, because Alien Isolation, that was like the one enemy you were fighting pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, you have the robots,
all that stuff. But it was like,
you don't want it to be like that. I have a feeling it will be like that for the hospital section with a few zombies in between.
Yeah.
I also don't understand how the Stalker enemy is going to be able to go from the hotel to the police station.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm a little, like, I still don't think we have seen enough yet to really be speculating.
That's true.
But I think the Stalker enemy will be fine. The big thing is make it truly random. Make it based on gunshots, maybe. Like, every time you shoot, there's a chance it will appear. Or, like, every certain amount of shots it'll appear. Or make it, like, random factors so it's not really trackable. Unless you have, like, a mod to track it. But the big thing, if you put enough bullets in it, make it run away. don't just let it kneel down and get back up.
So you're constantly running.
Because if you do a stalker enemy that turns tail and runs for a period of time, like if you shoot an enemy and that stalker leaves, it should not come back in that room if you stand there.
I agree.
It should just run away, and then like it comes back maybe on a timer once you're in a different room. But it cannot come back in that room there, I think would be a big win.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think we feel the same way.
I've never had a problem with stalker enemies.
Neither have
I just have had a problem with how they've been implemented. It feels like every time they do them slightly
Since 7.
differently
Since 7,
and
yeah.
worse.
Yeah.
And yes, Jack Baker was the best stalker.
Out of all of them, you think?
And when it comes down to the way
They put him in there.
they put him in there, where he is a constantly moving in the world enemy, was the only and right way to do it. Mr. X kind of does that too, but there's also parts where he'll just vanish.
Yeah.
Or parts where he'll teleport, which Jack teleports as well.
Yes, he does.
But I feel like the stalker enemies worked better in 7, like they worked better in the original RE2. Look, guys, I'm talking good about 7. Because
We do like 7.
Because the hallways were more confined and constricted, which is why I think the stalker enemy will probably be limited to just the hotel.
Okay.
I could see the stalker enemy being like the final boss of the hotel, and then us moving to Raccoon City.
Interesting. Okay.
Or Raccoon City's the first part and the hotel's the last
Later,
part.
yeah.
Will
Yes.
there be more than one playable character? Is Grace the one that goes to Raccoon City? Because maybe she doesn't.
Some people are just saying she's not the main character at all, which is very interesting considering their website is literally like, hey, this is the main character.
They say it in the video, too.
And they say it, right? And I know that, like, you know, a lot of us were kind of talking about it, and the comments that you guys were saying on the recent video that I put up is, you know, how much are we actually going to get at this Spotlight event? It's 40 minutes long. I think, if anything, we probably might not see more. We might get little glimpses of gameplay, but if anything, we are going to hear from the director. We're going to hear from the producers. We know that because they always talk to the devs. That's literally what they put out in the trailer. Like, you're going to hear from the devs. You're going to hear from blah, blah, blah. So we might get a little bit more of an explanation to kind of see maybe some of their intentions going into this game, or maybe their thought as to why they made certain choices that we're reading about.
We're going to see Monster Hunter.
Pragmata.
We're going to see Pragmata.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see Resident Evil.
So that's guaranteed.
I would be surprised if Resident Evil's not last, because they usually save Resident Evil for last.
They usually do.
Monster Hunter's usually first, and then Resident Evil's usually last.
They'll put Street Fighter in there as well.
Street Fighter will be there as well, the new season
Yep.
pass or whatever. They'll reveal a character probably or something like that.
Yep.
Or they'll
New
show
pack.
off the Switch version, because the Switch version
Yes.
has special features.
Yep. Please shadow drop some RE on the Switch too. Sorry, sidebar.
Yeah,
I want
that is
these
another thing.
games
I
on there.
think that the Capcom Spotlight will be the day it comes out on PlayStation, the RE2 and RE3. I would like them to say RE2 and 3 remake and 4 remake are coming to Switch
That'd be
too.
amazing.
I'll buy them right away.
Yes, immediately bought.
There'll probably be a remake trilogy pack.
Yes.
Which is like I want to say $99.99, or something like that. 80 or $79.99.
Put it in a pack. We'll buy it day one. That's all.
Yeah,
we're
$100
saying.
is worth it for
Yeah.
all 3 of them.
So the Capcom Spotlight, like, again, I don't expect we're gonna get this gameplay exclusive. No, but like they might show little new parts of it and
I
talk
would be
over
shocked
it, you know?
if they don't show the playable section that people saw at Gamescom.
Yeah.
I would honestly actually be offended, because everybody's talking about stuff that we can't see.
Yes.
And you can't argue that creates hype. Show us, and it will create the hype.
It will create that hype.
I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but it'd be really nice if we got a demo.
I know.
It'd probably be October.
Yeah, I think maybe later.
Maybe even January.
It could be January. I mean, because the Village one was in January and it came out for May. So if we're doing the timeline right, maybe October-ish. If it comes out February.
No
October,
one-shot
November-ish.
demos.
No one-shots, please. No.
I hate them.
Look,
I'm glad we get them at all, but
yeah.
I hate one.
Even I know the Village was
That's
exclusive.
it's called Steam Crack.
Yeah, and the Village one was exclusive to PlayStation for a little bit. So we do have PlayStations and PCs and Xboxes, so we're ready no matter what it comes out on.
No
first.
exclusive demos. Just put it on everything.
Just put it on everything. I agree. and no one-shot.
Why is this not coming to the Switch 2?
That's an interesting question. I actually forgot about that.
It's a good question because...
Not yet, maybe. I don't know.
The Switch 2 can definitely run it.
I mean, I'd imagine so if it's going to run 7, 8, 2, 3, 4. We're saying speculatively if it comes out the Switch 2. If they can run RE4 Remake, it's running 9.
Those games are not as taxing as people think they are.
No.
And they can definitely downscale them to 1080p, and they run like smooth butter.
Even if the Switch 2 version is like the lesser of
the 1080p,
version.
yeah. RE5 and 6 running 60.
They finally do, and I actually did play the demo of RE5 on the Switch 2.
It looks nice.
It's nice. Yeah, it's nice. I got to actually buy them. They're still on sale, all of them, right now.
I have
$10. I got to get them on the Switch. I think it can happen. Do I think it's just maybe not up there yet quite? I don't know. They can even say on the Spotlight, hey, by the way, it's coming out on Switch 2 as well.
Yeah, maybe at a later date.
Later date, maybe. I don't know. You know, we know that they've had access to develop this stuff for Switch 2 for a while, and it might have coincided with the development time. Maybe they need a little bit more time. I wouldn't put it past it. I have seen a lot of comments of like, what the hell? We were expecting it on Switch 2. Just give them a second. Hopefully they can put the other ones out and then catch themselves up.
There's no way it won't be on Switch 2. All the other RE engine games and REX engine games that they're making, they're pretty much putting on Switch 2. And Street Fighter 6 runs great on the Switch 2.
That's the thing, right? That's an RE engine title.
Not that it's as untaxing as a Resident Evil game, but...
What if they do the new Monster Hunter on the Switch too?
Definitely
that can also be it. That's what I'm saying, is that if they're starting to kind of put more stock into the Switch 2 because of how it can run, that is perfect. That's all we want as fans, just to play these games anywhere we'd like. And you know, myself, John, everybody that you've seen on this channel or that watches this channel, a lot of us are collectors at heart. We buy these games in and out on every console. So some people that might be watching be like, well, why do you gotta, you don't really need it again. Yes, we do, because guess what? If I want to have
there's going to be a little Johnny or a little Tony.
Yes.
Whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
A little Ant.
Yeah.
There's going to be a little Ant or a little Johnny that's going to have a Switch 2 and wants to play Resident Evil Remake. 2 Remake, 3 Remake. Yeah. I mean, Remake and 0 are already on there.
They are, yes.
4, 5, Rev 1, Rev 2. I own them all. They're all on there.
Thank God you could play 0 in Remake right now. It's not 60 frames, but the load times...
The load times are great.
Oh, my God. We still have our Switch 1 consoles, God bless them, but we are moving on.
0 and Remake still look good in 30.
No, they do. I just think that like it would have been nice to have an option. It's locked at 30, and you know we can do 60.
You tried it? You turned it on?
I didn't try it on the Switch 2, but they haven't had an initial patch to unlock it on the other consoles, so I don't think that's the case with Switch 2. Obviously, it's great. We are used to 30 frames on Remake, so as far as how
I can try it when I get home, because I have the cartridges for Remake. Sorry. The double pack comes with 0's cartridge.
And you got to download
Remake.
Just like how 4, 5, and 6, 4 is on the cartridge, and 5 and 6 you have to download. Yeah. But yeah, so... fingers crossed for that. The Spotlight event is coming up next week. Like I said, we are going to cover that. Now, before we get out of here, concerns for RE9. So, we talked about a lot of positives. We are pretty positive going into this era of RE. And I just am curious to see, like, what you have for concerns. And I think some of ours honestly line up pretty similar. But we'll get into yours, and I'll get into mine.
So, my number one concern... is the writer and the director. The director, lesser so. I think the director does a fine job of what they're doing. They've used Western writers twice now for Village and for Remake. Not Remake, I'm sorry. Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. And I don't know if it's public yet or not, but I really hope they're not using another one, because I think they've done a bad job. Just being honest. I think 7 and Village's potential, execution, story-wise at least. Gameplay-wise and all that, I'm talking about, just story-wise. 7 and Village had a lot of potential, and I think they just fumbled the bag. My second biggest concern is, like the Jurassic Park movie coming out, I really hope that this game is not going to uncover the really real secret truth of Umbrella in the really real underground lab in Raccoon City. Because I feel like a lot of IPs, once they get to the really real thing, they usually die shortly after. Because now it's like, okay, how much are you going to undermine my expectations by just saying what I actually know, what I've studied for 27 years? You're going to tell me like I don't know shit because it's not what I was told was not true? My final takeaway with this is it's really important when you make a sequel as a story. If you're going to go back to an event, think of like Jurassic Park going back to the island, or I don't know, Pokemon going back to Kanto, Red and Blues, where it's in the future. It's not the same story. Like, it's important that you make sure that what you're changing and what you're retconning makes the original better. Make it better. Fill in the holes. Fill in the blind sides that we didn't get. Fill in who else was working on Umbrella stuff. Fill in who was the one who called in the bombs. Fill in who was the connections, or who was, maybe a plot twist was like the president's the one that ordered the weapons. Whatever you can do, you have to fill in and make it better. Just going back to be like the really real lab with the really real bad guy. It wasn't Wesker. It wasn't Spencer. Like we have complained about Miranda.
Yes.
It doesn't feel fulfilling. It doesn't make your property better.
It softens the blow.
It
honestly.
makes your reader or your viewer or your engager or player feel like nothing that you ever show them sticks, because it can be undermined at any point. I think that's a very fine line to walk on, especially if we're going back to Raccoon City.
Yeah. No, I think that's very well said, man. Because
I think that's my biggest concern.
You just don't want them to, again, kind of cheapen some of the stuff that has been built up for so long.
Same thing we've been talking about with the missile, the blow, the crater. Where's the forest? Why isn't it overgrowth?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much we could talk about. Hell, the fucking forest hospital, which we didn't talk about earlier, but the forest hospital in Outbreak is overgrown.
Yeah, it is.
And it was 6 years after the fucking hospital got shut down. Yeah. This is 27, 28 years after.
Been overgrown. Like, yeah.
It's a weird oversight. Why? That's the stuff that I, as a Resident Evil fan, really enjoy. I want to know why. I want to know who's pulling the strings. Is it Brandon Bailey? Is it Marcus's Leech again? Is it Spencer? Did he come back to life like Wesker? Is it Wesker? Is it a different Wesker child? Is Alicia Ashcroft a Wesker child?
Yeah, like
is that why she's blonde?
Yeah.
Is Grace a Wesker child? There's so much they could do.
There's so much they could do.
All the Wesker children are dead, but that doesn't stop that. They could retcon
They could retcon anything, and I think that that's why it's a very interesting time. It's exciting to be an RE fan, but when you're hitting 30 years into the franchise next year, literally just shy of 30 will be when this thing gets released.
Yes.
I will be 30 after the week this gets released. This will be a big birthday celebration for me.
Congratulations, old man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, I'm 31. Yeah. I'll be 32 before this comes out.
Yeah, you will. So I think the biggest thing for me, I do agree. I think the director himself and the writer, that's my biggest concern, whether or not they, obviously really hit the nail on the head with all of the different... James is being silly in the corner.
He's grabbing the banana.
Yeah. If they really hit the nail on the head with all of this lore and the accuracy, because, I just hate when they do that. Again, when they're like, well, this was the real thing that you didn't see, or this is, it seems cheap sometimes. And I think, you want to have... I think the one thing that is just a little scratch in my head is just the fact of like, okay, between the originals and the remakes and what's, canon and what has changed and what you're pulling from, so you're still acknowledging the old games, but then you're also, this is in the main line, so now you're saying the remakes are affecting the main line with those little differences. And so what happens when you do an RE5 remake? What happens when you do a Code Veronica remake? When you can make these certain changes, like stuff that's still left on the table, I mean. We already know what they've done so far. Year 0 and 1 remake that could happen. There's so much that's left on the table now that you're taking stuff from the remake and saying, well, the remake, well, we're going to change that in 9 now. And we're going to... it's so cluttered in many ways. It's a blessing and a curse because we have so much to pull from, so much that that let's just say it engages us because we care about these characters and the stories.
Yeah.
So I think out of 7, 8, and 9, you put them out on there. 9 is what pulls me in the most.
Yeah.
As far as stories, as far as characters, even though we know so little right now, if you laid them out on a table and you said this is what each game offers, this is the character, I think Grace is a lot more engaging already. I think the fact that she's connected to Alyssa makes it a lot more engaging already. I think the fact that you're bringing us to Raccoon City makes this very enticing to see what they're gonna do and who they're gonna connect it with. So yeah. I think out of this like 7, 8, 9 trilogy, whatever you want to call it, I think right now this game has me the most excited out of 7, 8, and 9. Now 7, of course, I had that initial excitement of like, well, this is RE coming back. This is RE bringing it back into another era, but until I play it, I won't know.
No, just like Village.
We
were extremely positive going into Village, and then it shit the bed.
Yeah.
So like, for
despite
us,
what some people say, like,
yeah.
oh, you guys have always hated Village. It's like,
no, you go back.
Go back.
They're up there. Watch them.
And I know some people will go back.
I was excited about the demon doors and like all that shit.
All I'm going to say is that, opinions change over time. We've played these games a lot more. When I was playing RE7, it was not even a month old.
Yeah.
And I had you come on, I think, a Let's Play part and talk about it so far.
For what?
It was for an RE7 Let's Play that I was doing. So when I did that Let's Play, I was like...
I wasn't here then.
No, you were in on a video.
Was I?
Yes,
okay,
and it was audio only.
Oh, okay, I remember this.
One with me, one with Richard, one with you. I was kind of just like,
That was when I first was collaborating with you.
It was when we first started, yeah. So,
which, by the way, was my first introduction to RE7. That was my fresh perspective, having been an old fan who didn't play 5 and 6.
And there's your context, people. So before you leave comments, back and saying...
I left Resident Evil at 5 because when I was in high school, I had no friends that played.
And he had no console. He was all
and
on PC.
I was all PC.
You were not
I didn't have console.
PS3, 360 era.
I did not have PS3, X360. I was in an MMO world. I was out of the building. I was a super Resident Evil fan. I played 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, 4, every week on repeat. I would play those fucking games.
Yeah.
I was a mega Resident Evil fan.
And again, keep in mind that RE7 was coming out after a dip in the series, where you weren't even
I missed all of the negativity of 6. I was not a part of the wave of the hate. I was not a part of the 5 hype. And then what happened? I played 5, thought it was meh. Played 6, thought it was okay. I kind of leaned slightly in the opposite direction of the public for both of them.
And
now, I'm not going to say 6 is great, because it's not.
Right. But you coming into that Let's Play part, that was like, keep in mind for people that going back and watch it. And it's cool that you watch this stuff, because it's all in the
archive. I have to go back and watch it.
The reason why those are still up there for a great reason is because it's a snapshot in time. That's why I have all the podcast episodes up there, no matter what era, who is on it, because it's all snapshots in time.
His Spider-Man Let's Play.
Yeah.
Listen to him go up 8 octaves on the voice scale.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, welcome back.
Honestly, my voice was pretty deep back then, to be honest.
No,
with
it
you.
wasn't. Not like you sound now.
Not deep, but like even when you go in like a couple years, like 2011, 2012, my voice.
Yeah, honestly, around there.
Like a couple years in, it eventually adjusted to what you guys have been hearing for the rest of the time. But all I'm saying is that they're all snapshots in time, and I think each era of Resident Evil within this channel history, I think 9, it's going to be the biggest that we're going to push on this era. I think because Village, I think we did a great job at covering that. Even though it just completely made us pissed off by the end of it because of the game itself. Yeah. I would love this to be a really, in our opinion.
We did a great job at covering Village.
We did.
Even though we ended up falling to the negative side of things.
With just the game itself.
Village was great coverage. Probably our best. RE3 was great coverage.
Yeah.
Welcome to Raccoon City had great coverage.
Yeah.
We did really well.
We did. And the thing is too, it's like again,
and this one's going to be even better.
Yeah. That's the way you have to look at it, is each time you just learn from that, and that's why I think, a lot of channels that kind of grew from that RE7 era when it was more of it was reaching more casual fans or more casual gamers that weren't into Resident
Well, because all
Evil.
of the non-Resident Evil
First person was easy
Scare
for
Cam,
people to jump in.
the Scare Cam streamers.
Era. Yep.
Yeah, they got Resident Evil 7 a lot more sales than anybody wants to admit.
I think that with each Resident Evil game and each growth of this franchise, we're also able to grow as content creators. So I think that's why it's always cool to see when these games come out. Everything has been a build-up with each RE era that we've been seeing. And we're going to definitely deliver a lot of content during this era. And, we're really going to make it our goal to, talk about this stuff. And like I said, I wasn't here when this all got announced in the States. I was in the UK doing the Resident Evil Challenge, 20th anniversary 2025 challenge. Definitely check that out because that was a lot of fun to hang out in the UK.
Yeah.
Everybody over there, obviously Nuji, Izzy, Nathan, even Jordan, Amy. Shout out to everybody that I was able to hang out with. Everybody at the meetup. It was an awesome time. And I definitely wanted to, I definitely had that itch to get back to working on some RE content. And so that's why we were like, all right, let's just do this podcast, talk about everything we can as of right now. Talk about what we can. And because you can obviously speculate, you can go into theories, you can do a bunch of stuff, but it's June as of this recording. So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, 8 months to go. And that's not a lot of time. And I think Capcom, I was talking to Izzy about this too. But I think Capcom might try to keep a lot of this stuff close to the chest this time around.
Probably.
With the embargoes being broken with RE4 remake because of clowns, with the overall information getting out, I think now that this isn't a remake, they're going to try to keep a lot of the, who's that other character that comes in and who's that enemy, or they're going to keep a lot of this stuff muted.
Or they're going to just blow it all out early. There's two ways they could go.
That's true. There's two sides to every coin.
Just so nobody's like, Anthony, you said they weren't going to say nothing.
I know. No, you're right. It's good to say.
But the thing is the reason why we're saying that is because at the end of the day, Capcom's unpredictable. Leakers aren't reliable.
No, never.
So one thing I was going to bring up to your point, when we were talking kind of about like RE7 and Scare Cam selling copies and stuff like that, trophies are by no means an end-all be-all of a measurement. But I just looked up on my Sony app, because we'll say PlayStation sells the most copies of these games. Probably true. Except for Resident Evil 5. The Xbox 360 sold the most there. But RE7, in comparison to RE2 Remake, the first milestone trophy, so not the very first one, get to the house, but the first milestone trophy of like solving the statue puzzle or getting the 3 heads to get out of the house the first time. About equal content-wise. Maybe RE7's a little longer. It's like a 30% player base difference in favor of RE2. RE7 is a great game that sold a lot of copies to people who never played it for longer than a few hours.
Absolutely. And it got Resident Evil back to more of a basic structure.
Yes. And sometimes the money being collected is all that matters.
And the only reason why you got first person was also because of VR, and Ethan's supposed to be you, the character. And that's why first person is in a discussion today on the show, because it started with 7.
They had a different idea for it. Yeah. Yeah. So RE7, did it save Resident Evil? Maybe you could make an argument that it saved it because the RE6, after RE6 was the dark days, most game companies would love to sell what RE6 sold.
Yeah.
Even though it was a commercial failure.
Right.
Like 5, 6 million copies.
Still sold. It's still sold.
It's I think it's even more than 5 or 6.
At this point, yeah.
I think at launch, I think it was almost it was a lot.
Yeah, no, that hype. That whole Chris and Leon, the marketing for 6 was very good.
But despite it marketing wise being very good,
it put
selling
people at a
very
crossroads.
well.
Yeah,
it's still the quality of it spoke, right?
Yes.
People played a little bit of it. Probably most people finished Leon's campaign, played
and wrapped
Chris,
it up. Yeah,
and it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like what are we playing? Like,
I am
what are we
curious
doing?
though. I don't know if there's no way to find this out, but like the statistic of how many people dropped off after Leon, like who actually played all of this scenarios?
You can look at trophies.
Okay.
So if you look at trophies, they actually The Microsoft achievements and PlayStation trophies and Steam achievements will show you a percentage of how many people who own the game
got those specific achievements.
Who got achievements for the game got specific trophies. And I'm pretty sure last time I looked, at least on Steam, because they're the easiest to find, or even on PlayStation, it's a huge drop-off. It's like less than 50% finish Leon. Less than like 20% finish Chris. And then as you go like to Ada, it's like less than 9%.
I mean,
think about this, okay? Think about this. The average completion percentage of trophies on PlayStation for RE7 today is 22% of all the trophies. Now, that's including banned footage, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Just like RE2 is including Lost in Nightmares,
Ghost Survivors.
Ghost Survivors,
yeah.
And the other one. Resident Evil 2's average completion is about 43%. So RE2, even with that, is
less
20% more than RE7.
Or more, yeah.
They're just two different games.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why Resident Evil has always consistently outsold Silent Hill, it is easier to understand. It is better for the average consumer, whether you want to call us smooth brains or casuals or whatever.
Yo-yos.
The more common experience enjoyer will enjoy Resident Evil more than a lot of other games.
That's fair.
Resident Evil is almost like a cheat code. It's horror, but because it's interactive, it can be really scary. But because it's interactive, it could also be not very scary. It could be very action oriented. So it's kind of like a cheat code. It's one of the big 7, like the big 7 IPs that don't die. Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, like 5 Nintendo series.
Yeah,
like
take your pick.
But if you get rid of Nintendo, it's like Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Call of Duty. It's one of the big 5.
Yeah, it's not going away. And speaking of stuff that isn't going away, while this happens, Silent Hill 1 remake was announced.
Silent Hill 1 remake got announced. I was just about to say.
Yeah, which is amazing. You mentioned Silent Hill, so it's a great segue.
Yeah, Silent Hill 1 remake. Bloober Team got invited back despite the issues that they had with Konami in the development process. Konami obviously was impressed with the final product. Heard the fan base say it was a great experience. Hi, Mugen.
Mugen is saying hello. It's great to see because again, I think.
Now, how far out is that? I have no idea. 3 years.
Silent Hill 2 for me was my game of the year for 2024. So, I'm very excited to see what they do. I'm excited for their the other game they're working on. The
Silent Hill F.
No, that's not a.
Chronos something.
Yeah.
Chronos.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see that. Just because it's a new IP.
Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Sci-fi space shooter kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for Silent Hill 1. I think, I love 2 remake. I love what they did. I love the add-ons. And a lot of people were asking us, so that's why we wanted to bring it up here.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I don't know how far out it is.
Yeah. I'm going to guess 3 years, 2 years. But that leads me to my other question, the question I wanted to end the podcast with and present to the audience.
Okay.
With this coming Resident Evil 9 coming out right before the 30th anniversary, do you think we're going to get any announcements on the 30th anniversary?
Good question.
Because I am starting to wonder if we're going to get a game next year besides this one.
They could do a twofer.
I feel like because it's
with
February,
Pragmata, though, coming out too, and Onimusha,
different teams.
But still, that's still slated for. That's 3 games in 2026. I don't know. I feel like they for quarterly financial.
Yeah, but Pragmata's been coming out for 5 years.
Okay, but they finally put 2026 on it though. Unless that gets delayed,
they put 2024 and 2025 on it too.
I know. I think, like I said, we're sorry on the note. Like they're just like they put a little wink in there. I think that the announcement could potentially be a few things. I think it could be original trilogy remaster. Please do it.
I wish.
Okay, I know 2 and 3 are coming to the PlayStation. I know. But I'm talking for Switch, for Xbox, for play. You can play it anywhere. You can click a button. Old graphics, new graphics. Tomb Raider style remaster is what I mean. Like,
that would be
it's
sick.
old, new, trophy support, achievement support, Steam achievements. Boom, do everything. And the other thing, Resident Evil 0/1 remake announcement. Now, will it come out the same year? I don't know. But if you at least announce it for the 30th, it doesn't have to come out the 30th year. But if you announce it for the 30th, I'll fucking take it.
Yeah, me
so
too.
I think those two things are on my list of what a 30th anniversary announcement should be. Or some kind of showcase, or some kind of stream. What are you doing, Mugen? Do you think there's a reason why they maybe haven't done a remastered collection? Do you think it would be because, like, well, they got the remakes to play, we're not going to worry about it? Like, what if they completely avoid that next year? Do you think it's just never going to come at that point?
I think that the Japanese have a very,
like, a look ahead kind of thing. Like,
I think they have a very, I don't want to say weird, but I think that they have a very strong stance against touching former people's work. That's why when Shinji remade the first game, it was fine, because it was him that made the first game.
it's the Godfather himself doing it.
But a lot of people probably don't want to just remaster. They want to remake.
And now that they've already remade them,
They're going to remake one again, which will have first-person and third-person options. Definitely.
Yeah, that's going to be insane.
Definitely, yeah.
That's going to be insane. So
And
I
will
it's
play
safe
it.
to say a VR mode will be coming for even 9.
Probably.
Because I think that just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, the VR2, unfortunately, is overpriced. The only two games that are actually worth the damn are RE4 Remake and Village VR, which sucks because they need to have more support on the VR2.
For sure.
So I think RE is like literally holding that up as like, oh, please buy me. But the full price, it was not worth it.
I'm really surprised Steam hasn't come out with a VR headset yet.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because the Meta Quest, I played RE4 OG on it, obviously. It was very fun, but it's very limiting. It is cool that you're on the PC. You can jailbreak it. You do what you want. I just wish that the VR headset for PlayStation was something that you could also take to PC, but I know that's not their case. That's not their goal. They're trying to,
It's possible that it might one day.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Mansion in first or third to have that choice, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'd play it
you
in
know
both.
what I mean? Yeah, I would not be mad or offended that they did something like that.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, like with all the points that me and John were just making about those perspective choices or where these players have come from for previous games, where they might prefer one over the other. But yeah, I mean,
and Capcom is known for going back and rehashing things.
yes,
we
times.
could totally get like a PS fucking 5 version of RE2 remake, and then all of a sudden it just has VR support.
Yeah.
Like or PS6 or whatever.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
They bring their stuff
Next
up.
couple of years, we will be on a PS6. So that's the thing, is it's sooner than later, guys.
Really?
Xbox is doing theirs in 2027 and 2026, 2027. So PlayStation soon, and so yeah, this gen kind of felt like that. But I'm not pissed at fast gens. I think some of the gens overstay their welcome. Switch and PlayStation 4 overstayed its welcome.
2017 to almost 2027. The Switch wouldn't have overstayed its welcome if it wasn't such old hardware to begin with.
Out of the gate, it was already
And
old.
even now, the Switch 2 is still old hardware
because it's
for
already
what we
been
have
made for a couple years.
What we
at
have
this point.
today. It had to have been released 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It should have been.
It should.
PS2 was what, 2001?
2000.
Oh yeah, in fall of 2000.
Yes.
So PS4 or PS1 was 94. So 6-year gens should be commonplace.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're coming up to 2026 will be the 6th year.
It will.
For the PS.
This November, all these consoles turn 5.
For 5.
Yeah.
So
for PS and Xbox.
In 2 years, the PS5 should be on its way out.
Man. Yeah. It'll be around to still get for years to come, but PS6 will be what they're pushing. Oh.
I would like to see them be like, PS6 comes out next year, and that's it. Support dropped. PS5 does not get new games.
That would be... the PS4 support went on for so
because
long.
At what point is this a new gen? PS4 support is still going on.
Not for RE9, though.
Not for RE9.
Thank God, it's gone. So there you go. And again, no offense to anybody who has a PS4, but it's been over 10 years. It's time to move on.
What'd you say, Anthony? I'm playing RE4 on my PS4.
I'm playing it on the PS4. Hunnigan takes
no
10
offense
minutes
to people
load
who.
in.
I'm not saying it's like you're poor, get over it.
No.
But what we're
not
saying is that sometimes you just have to let it go.
Yes.
And the PS4 should have been discontinued support-wise.
The Days of Play just happened.
2020.
PS5 Slim is $350. That is not bad. Even if you got to make trades in at GameStop to make that happen, they all had it for $350. You guys
That's
just
cheaper
have
than
to,
PS4.
You have to
which
shop.
is $399.
That's what I'm saying. You have to shop smart, and sometimes you can trade in stuff to make it cheaper. Make it affordable. I understand. Shit's expensive right now. I get it, but there is ways to make it cheaper.
For sure.
And that's the one thing we've always tried to do is let you guys know what's out there. But yeah, so I think putting a bow on everything, that's where we're at with Resident Evil news, with Resident Evil 9, with Silent Hill, with all that stuff being said. We'll have more stuff coming out next week.
For sure.
For this Capcom Spotlight event. We'll see what they have there. Even if it's 10, 15 minutes more of developers explaining why or how they're doing stuff, that's still more information for us to dive in and dissect. So we're looking forward to that.
Hopefully we get stuff.
Hopefully. I think we will. I don't think it's just going to be like, hey, we're going to re-show the trailer and talk about it for a minute. If it's a 40-minute event, at least give us 10 minutes or 15 minutes of RE within that 40-minute event. I think that will be, the most 10 minutes and move on to something else, and I'm still looking forward to Pragmata and to show what they're going to have there with that game, which is a new Capcom IP, which we got to commend them for making new material in 2025.
Yeah, and I've heard it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You fight at the same time while solving a puzzle on the screen with the right stick.
Okay.
And you have to it's like a very interesting game.
Okay. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, guys, so thank you so much for watching, listening. You guys are the lifeblood of the community, so
look at that white thumb.
Hit the like button.
Jesus. I went like this and it just looked like an angel gave a thumbs up.
Subscribe and all that good stuff. Download the episode for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Libsyn. You know where to find us. And stay tuned for more LTRE content, and we will catch you guys as the road to Resident Evil 9 Requiem continues.
The road to Requiem.
Road to Requiem. Take care, guys, and we'll
not
catch you next
Requiem.
No.
Or Requiem.
Requiem. It's
Please.
Requiem.
Requiem.
That's it. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.